So throughout this term, through your discussion board posts, many of you have expressed interest or curiosity about macros. What are they? What can they do? And how can they be created? So what I decided to do to start off week 6 is to post this tutorial in your discussion board, demonstrating what a macro is, what it can do, and then how to create one. So what I have here is a very basic workbook that I created. And I do have a macro that I use all the time for printing. So I'm very fussy about how I print my workbooks when I am using Excel. So I created a macro that takes probably the 6 or 7 steps that I always go through before printing, and it combines them into one click of a button. So first of all, if I go into preview this current workbook, you will see nothing special. It's portrait and just plain black text, white background, and it even goes on to 2 pages because I have too much information in my columns. But that is not how I ideally like to print my workbooks. So what I have done is I have created a macro that will set this up to print exactly as I would like. So if you look on my quick access toolbar, there is a button here that looks like a printer, and when I hover over it, you will see it says Personal XLSB printing. So this is my personal macro for printing. So I'm going to click that. Other than a brief spinning of my cursor, you really didn't notice much happen, but now when I go into preview this same workbook, you will see my printing macro took effect. So what it did is it inserted a header, it inserted a footer with the worksheet name, the page number, and the workbook name. It sets these headings to print, it set the grid lines to print, and it also vertically centered it on the page. All of that was done by simply clicking this button. So how did I create it? So what I'm going to do for demonstration purposes, I'm going to select all this data, I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to open a new workbook, paste it. We're going to create a macro. So if you go onto the View ribbon, there is an option for View. And when I click that, you can go in and you can see the macros that I have. Or your other option is to record a macro. So we are going to go ahead and get ready and record one. Click away. Okay, so now I'm going to record. So it is important that you do select a name. I recommend that you choose a name that you will remember so that it will sort of tell you what is contained within the macro. No spaces, but you can use the underscore, or you can use alternate lowercase capital. Here you can assign a keystroke if you would wish. I don't tend to do that just because I may forget which keystroke I assigned. I do use keystrokes a lot, but for macros I tend to not use them. And then the next choice you will make is where do you want to store this. If you choose this workbook, it will only be available in this current workbook. If you choose new workbook, it will open a new workbook, and that's where the macro will be stored. Or if you choose personal macro workbook, this will be saved within your Excel program on whichever computer you happen to store it. So I'm going to click OK. I already had this one because I had a couple runs with this tutorial that didn't work so well, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it. So now if we go to macros, you will see I have the option to stop recording, which means that right now I am currently set to record. So what I'm going to do, every click that I take is being recorded by Excel to be part of this macro. So I'm going to go in and make the changes I want. So I'm going to change the orientation to landscape. I'm going to go in and set those to print. I'm also going to go into page setup. All that looks good. Here I'm going to set it to center on the page. If I wanted to add a custom header, I could click here. I'll just type in my name, learn how to type it first of all. Click OK. Now if I want to create a custom footer, I'm going to insert the name of the worksheet. Here I will insert the page number, And then in this far one, I will insert the name of the workbook. Click OK, and you'll kind of see what it's going to look like. Go to Sheet. If I want any column headings to print, but I'm going to leave it with printing grid lines and column headings. And I'm going to click OK. And then if that's everything that I want to happen, I'm going to go to View, go to Macros, and then Stop Recording. So now when you look at macros, I have this macro created that I just created for printing. So I'm going to select that. Well, before we do that, so if I go in and print this, because I've already made all those changes, it applied them as we were doing it. So once again, I'm going to Control A to select everything, Control C to copy everything, Control N to open a new workbook, and then Control V to paste. So I'm going to go into View. Well, let's look at Preview first. So there it is, plain old workbook. So now I'm going to go into View, Macros, View Macros, and I'm going to select the one that we just created, which was Get Ready Print, and click Run. So now when I click Print, you can see that it inserted the header that I wanted, the sheet name, the page number, and the file name. So you can always run it by going to View and View Macro. View Macros, select the one you want, and then click Run. The other thing you can do, as you can see, I added mine here. So if I go into File and I go to Options, and then I'm going to customize my Quick Access toolbar. Here you will see the things I currently have on my Quick Access toolbar. So what I'm going to do from here is click this arrow and select Macros. So here's this new macro that I created. I will click it once and click Add. And then it will appear. This is the default symbol for macro. Probably not ideal, just because if you add several, they will all kind of look the same. That icon will look the same. So I can click Modify. And then I can pick any symbol that I want that I feel that is going to remind me of what that will do. Since this is really just a sample decisions, I'll pick the checkerboard. And then click OK, and then OK. So there it is. So you will see when I hover over it now, this is the macro I have created. If at any point you don't want a macro, if you click to go back into View, and I'm not sure why it's telling me that it's a hidden workbook, because clearly it is not, but you should be able to click Delete and then just delete the macro. But apparently it's not that easy for me today. One note of caution with macros, a lot of times, not necessarily with the macros you are creating, but with a lot of macros, viruses tend to be carried with them. So there are email programs that will deny access to a workbook that has a macro embedded. So it's just something to be careful of if you are using it and applying it. Not all people would be able to receive it, but it does make my life a lot easier, because in a couple quick steps, I am able to import it. I'm able to click one button. In this case now I have two, and I am able to implement all those steps. If you decide you don't want these features on your toolbar at some point in time, I'm just going to remove that from the Quick Access, since I already have the one here that I'd created. And that's it. To me, macros are fun. They are so useful, and I hope this helped you.